Hey folks, Real Honesty with John Ritland. I'm John Ritland. This is the second part of my top 20 favorite WCW wrestlers, where I just want to make this clear that not everybody's going to make it. Not everybody is. Chris Jericho will not be on here, and that's all due respect to Chris Jericho. He had great times there. His feud with Dean Malenko was great. His feud with Goldberg was great, even though Goldberg didn't really want to work with him. But the reason Jericho's not going to be on here is because a lot of time they really marginalize the guy. As good as he was, his time in WWE, to me, showed that he could be much more of a star. But anyway, and that was after a couple years. But anyway, we're going to go, I've already done 20 through 15, so we're just going to go for about 15 minutes, cover a few of these stars. But yes, Jericho should certainly be considered one of the best WCW superstars ever. He's just not going to be in my top 20. And as far as top superstars of all time, Jericho should absolutely be in anyone's top 50, if not top 20. I'm just talking about WCW here. So I'm factoring in, people could say a smaller talent pool. No, there's quite a few people that some may forget about. Anyway, number 14, Goldberg. Mainly because they booked him right, they built him right, and what he was able to do in the ring, which wasn't much, did get the crowd's attention. And his WCW title reign was, it worked great for ratings. I mean, crowds were building up to accepting him as the guy. His time winning the title from Hulk Hogan in July of 1998 was really, really good. And sometime next year, around that date, I will do a 20-year reflection on that. Goldberg is just huge star. He was a huge part of the Monday Night Wars. That's no disrespect to anybody like Chris Jericho that he worked with or anybody else, but Goldberg moved the needle a lot. I mean, yes, the crowd started turning on him, especially around Starrcade 98, where a lot of people forget that there were quite a few people cheering for Kevin Nash during that match. Now, that could have been just because fans wanted to be defiant and see something different. But then they killed off Goldberg, and after, really by about mid-99, he was just another guy when he should have been made the guy. The problem is his character just couldn't evolve. But for a period of, months, over the course of a couple years, Goldberg was really impressive. I mean, I'm not the biggest Goldberg fan. His latest run in WWE was pretty shit. Even though it got some big reactions, I didn't really care for it. But whatever. Goldberg, though, on here pretty much for the same reasons I put Hogan on there, where, however I feel about them, they did do a lot for big business in WCW. And that's not, again, to discount that Jericho didn't. Number 13, Eddie Guerrero. Somebody who, U.S. title run, Cruiserweight title run, he turned everything into gold. I mean, him and Jericho should almost be like number 13. In fact, I'm just going to basically do that. I'm going to make an amendment here on my list. Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho. And the reason is because they were two guys that should have been used maybe a little bit better. But Eddie Guerrero, with his feud with Rey Mysterio, he had a couple great matches against Chris Jericho. Great matches in 96 against Ric Flair. Which a lot of people tend to forget about as being really, really good matches. His time in the LWO, I mean, that was less so. The Revolution, that was kind of weird. But his feud in particular with Rey Mysterio in that match, Halloween Havoc 1997, would cement him on this list. And the Starrcade 97 match against Dean Malenko was really, really good. Really good quality. Just great stuff. Great wrestling. Just really great wrestling. So, yeah, Eddie deserves to be on here, and Jericho for his, as I mentioned before, his Cruiserweight title run, his, couple matches with Rey Mysterio, feud with Goldberg that he made the most out of because Goldberg didn't want to be part of it because Goldberg was a prick, at least at that time. I don't know about now. And also Jericho's run as TV champion. And yeah, once like the end of the night, his feud with Dean Malenko in particular is like one reason he's on here. The conspiracy victim thing, holding up the sign, talking to people outside the White House, that was pretty cool. So yeah, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho be here at number 13. Yeah, I can break my own rules. Why not? It's a countdown list by a wrestling fan. What does it matter? Why there had to be that many rules? So yeah, both those guys get on here. Number 12, Brian Pillman. This one may be a little controversial, ranking him above Goldberg and Hogan. I just always loved watching Brian Pillman in the ring. He made the light heavyweight championship mean more than anyone would have. I mean, in all due respect to anybody that won it besides him, I mean, Jushin Thunder Liger did well for the period of, a couple months that he had it. That great Super Brawl 2 match that they had. One of the best matches of 1992 on WCW cards, which says a lot because 1992 had some great pay-per-views. And I've said that before, but I stand by it. WCW in 1992 was on fire as far as pay-per-views. At least from an in-ring standpoint. Maybe not so much in storylines and stuff like that, but in-ring standpoint is just tremendous. But then Pillman always excelled from the time he came in '89 and faced off against Lex Luger and got a good match out of Lex Luger, which isn't an easy thing to do. Not an easy thing to do. I mean, that's when Luger still has legs under him. And I'm going to keep taking those cheap shots at a guy that led to the death of Miss Elizabeth. But Brian Pillman, his time as a heel, facing off against Ricky Steamboat, who will appear later in this countdown. Like that Halloween Havoc 92 match they had, his 1995 match that he at Great American Bash 95 that he had against Alex Wright, where Pillman started to show more of the loose cannon thing, going all the way back to 93 and teaming up with Steve Austin for the Hollywood Blondes, not the West Hollywood Blondes, which was a shit team. I'm not saying shit workers, it was a shit team. But Pillman just always excelled. I mean, the loose cannon thing was great. It's a shame that he wasn't able to do it more in WCW. And it's a real shame he got injured right before going to WWE. But his time in WCW shouldn't be forgotten. He was a great, great, great talent. And it's just so sad that he died as young as he did. Yeah, Pillman's here at number 12. Number 11, Stunning Steve Austin. His time as U.S. champion, his time as TV champion. Should have probably been the world champion at some point. I think had Hogan not come in, had Hogan maybe been willing to work with Steve Austin and actually put people over, because Hogan doesn't put people over, really. He just tends to, bury people, because that's what Hogan does, and calls people crybabies. I mean, I'm just going to, use that against him until the day he apologizes for it and actually means it. Not that I'm sure that Hogan's ever made a genuine apology in a while. But anyway, Steve Austin, his time in the Dangerous Alliance was great. Like, really, that stuff was absolute magic. His time teaming with Rick Rude. Steve Austin, Stunning Steve Austin, he always excelled. He was great in tag teams. He was great as a singles wrestler. It's a shame that he got hurt as much as he did, and especially in 94. I mean, I think he wrestled a little bit in 95, but of course, by the time Nitro came along, he was already gone from the company, which is a real shame. I mean, it worked out great for him in the end because he went to WWE and, of course, became the biggest box office star in the world up to that point. And maybe ever. I mean, I'm not really totally sure, like, as far as the numbers adjusted for inflation or anything. But yeah, Steve Austin, one of the best superstars ever. His time was just his time in the WCW ring. A lot of people forget just how good he was. Like, before he got completely injured and for the neck and his knees got really, really bad, the guy was really, really, really good in the ring. And could just never break past the upper mid-card status, which is a damn shame, because Steve Austin was wonderful. Steve Austin was wonderful to watch. And now we go to number 10, Vader. I mean, many could argue that Vader should be in the top 10, or many argue that Vader should be in the top 5, actually. I'm putting Vader number 10 only because he didn't last into the Nitro era. I mean, he was, I think he was around for like the first Nitro, but he wasn't on the show. But then that backstage incident with Paul Orndorff, he got taken off TV and got fired soon after that. I did a fantasy booking about Vader's first year in WWE, by the way, if you guys want to check that out. If you guys can't find it, let me know and I'll send you the link. But yeah, just Vader, most athletic super heavyweight I've ever seen. Period. I mean, all due respect, Bam Bam Bigelow, all due respect to One Man Gang, Yokozuna. Yoko's problem is he gained too much weight. He gained way too much weight, and it was just it was uncomfortable. But Vader could do the moonsaults he could do, and the big splashes off the ropes, and the agility he had for being such a big guy. It was amazing. His feud with Sting was tremendous. I mean, absolutely tremendous. One of my favorite WCW feuds. I actually did do a countdown about that. Favorite WCW feuds and least favorite WCW feuds. Because when I did that, but they're on my countdown list somewhere, like my countdown playlist. But Vader always excelled. No matter what he did. His time facing Hogan, I mean, that wasn't all that great, but his time as WCW champion, 92, then dropping into Ron Simmons, and then again 93, then dropping into Sting at one point on an international tour and then gaining it back, facing Flair at Starrcade 93, facing the Guardian Angel, who later became the boss, was the boss and then became the Guardian Angel, aka Big Boss Man. They had some great matches. Had an underrated match against Sting at Slamboree 94. Vader could always make himself he could make his opponents look good, and he could make himself seem dominant. Like, he could be vulnerable yet still be a monster, and that's hard to do with being a monster heel. It's not really easy to pull off. Vader did really well at it. Now we go number 9, and the final guy in this in this block of the show, or in this block, of the countdown, Booker T. Should have been WCW champion well before he was. Of course, Vince Russo will credit himself as, I made Booker T world champion. I did all these great things. You made David Arquette world champion. You made yourself world champion. And you gave us, stuff on a pole. Probably because you like pole, Vince. That's probably what it just... Sorry, just, what? Maybe because he has a fetish for things on a pole. Maybe he has a fetish for strippers on a pole. I don't know. I just don't get the fascination with on a pole matches. Booker T, his time in Harlem Heat often gets forgotten about by quite a few fans. I mean, not all the fans, but quite a few fans as being one of the best tag teams ever. I mean, Booker T and Stevie Ray were tremendous. Tremendous from the first time they came into WCW. They were tremendous outside of that, before they got to WCW. I just have not been able to see really that much footage of Booker T and Stevie Ray before they became Harlem Heat in WCW. And just great tag team wrestling, great, fluidity in the ring. They were able to, be powerful and agile. I mean, Booker was more agile of the two. Stevie Ray was more rough and tough brawler. That's not knocking Stevie Ray. He was a great athlete. It's just Booker was the more agile of the two. Could do much more of the athletics, but Stevie Ray certainly more than held up his own, and they were a great complementary. They complemented each other great. Obviously, being brothers, they would obviously do that. But Booker had a great run with Harlem Heat, and then TV champion, and getting the singles championships, and then finally winning the world championship. And he became a 5-time champion after winning at a Bash at the Beach in July of 2000. By March 26, 2001, the last Nitro, he had become a 5-time champion by the end of the night. That's 5 title reigns in 8 months. Is it any wonder why WCW went out of business, hot-shotting it to that point? It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, not taking anything away from Booker T. Booker T was tremendous. Booker T, great athlete. Spectacular athlete. You really can't say enough good things about him. His commentary now ain't all that good, but my God, for an in-ring career, that guy had a hell of a WCW run. So that's where I'm going to leave that off. I got 8 more here. I might flesh these out a little bit, or I might just do all 8 in the next countdown. But anyway, that's what I got to say. Do you agree? Do you disagree with what I've said? Like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter link is in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.